Hi, everybody. Hope you saw my little announcement on the Wool and the Floss, and you're headed over here to join me. Waiting to see if, oh, there's Angie. There's Tess. How are you? Waiting to see if Megan's going to join me. She's hopping on from her feed. Let's see. Aw. Love seeing all you guys join me. I hope everyone's doing okay. It's been a long week. We all know that. The real world sometimes is a place we don't really want to deal with. But unfortunately, I guess we don't have much of a choice. Um, let's see. I'm just still waiting for Megan to pop on here. Hopefully, she's not having a problem. I think that she was trying to deal with kids and everything else, but we've got a lot of good information for you all. And I see a bunch of you are joining me, so yay, thank you. Hi, Deb. Um, it was still a little chilly here today. Oh, hi, Eileen. How's that puppy? I love seeing your puppy pictures. A little chilly here in Michigan today. I'm normally at my cottage on the weekends, as I think you all knew from last week when I had the beautiful lake view in my background. Now I've got shop view because I've been working a ton. We're trying to get things rolling around here. Oh, there's Megan. Um, Yay. Hi, Leslie. Nice to see you. Oh, I'm glad the puppy's good, Eileen. Yay, thanks. Megan's popping on here. There she
Hi.
is. How are
So
you?
sorry. Well, I was trying to find a lost favorite stuffy, so that's why I'm
Oh,
sorry. You had to tap dance for a minute. Sorry about that.
that's okay. I'm pretty good at it by now. Excuse me, though. I'm turning up my volume because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
So I decided to sit here on my couch again.
Well,
I'm a
good.
little jealous that you're at your shop because it's kind of nice to escape the madness of home.
Well, for those who obviously weren't on the phone with us earlier, and my dog started going berserk, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go to the shop. It's a little quieter. I've been here an awful lot lately, but at least there's no crazy barking dogs here. So
I know, I know. Sorry, I just had to bend out of the picture because my notes were over there.
that's okay. I'm used to people leaving me.
That sweet Mary, I'll tell you what, she was so awesome, but she had a lot of things around her house that she was trying to show you.
I know it was exciting. It was exciting. So I know how to, deal with it when people leave me for just for a minute anyway.
I know. I'm not going anywhere now. I'm not going to tell you that other people might not come in and join us, but I'm here.
That's okay.
So
I feel like your kids know me, even though they've only met me once. So
they've met you one time, and we talk now so much on the phone that they're like, "Are you talking to Melissa? Can we say hi?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm talking to Melissa."
it's so
But
cute.
they always look, kids now, like they always look at the screen because they think that it's like a video. They don't
Oh,
understand when you're just talking like like
why would you do
audio.
that?
They're like, "What's happening?" So it's so funny. So
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I This has been a long week.
for sure.
I feel like I don't want to be a downer, but I just have to tell you, and I know you feel the same way because we talked about it. But like, my heart is heavy this week.
Yeah.
There's just so much happening in the world, and I don't know. I don't. I know that that's not what we're here to talk about, but I just have to mention it because
I,
I just have a heavy heart. That's all.
I know. Well, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I was 3 weeks from delivery when 9/11 happened with my youngest child, and I I intake as little news as is socially responsible to do
I think that's
because
smart.
I, but even with the little amount that I take in, which, lots of people like sit down to the news every night and watch it for an hour. That is not me. Um, Partially because my psyche has a hard time with all that because so much of it we can't control. But yeah, this week has just been awful, awful, awful. So
Between COVID and racial things, and I don't know. So we're not here to talk about that, but I do think that it's important for for everyone, the 40 people. Thank you so much for sticking
yeah,
around with us. Like, I just want everybody to know that, like, I'm thinking about it. I know Melissa is, but we're just happy that we have Needlepoint as our sort of like little safe place. And so we're just going to keep on keeping on, right? I mean, what else can we do?
We have to have our happy place that we can escape from the real world. And for me, that's what my shop is to so many people. Like when I bought my shop from my prior owner, everyone was so happy because they said, this is our happy place. This is our escape. What would we do if you hadn't have done this, you know? And so I think that, you know, we all have to live in the real world, but we can escape to our little fake world from time to time. So.
Well, and I think that we should probably say, so, because I was about to say like same with my shop, but what I want to say first, and that I'm not sure that we've done a great job. By the way, I have this like super ugly blanket that's like I just can't stare at it. So I'm sorry. Back to business. So typically we're here Saturday nights talking to a designer, and then I teamed up with Melissa, and she a couple weeks ago, was it already 2 weeks ago, had Mary Legalet, who is a beautiful book writer and stitch writer. And what we decided to do tonight was just to kind of chat as shop chicks and kind of share the lay of the land and kind of the state of affairs and where we're at and what's going on and what Melissa and I talk about, like pathetically sometimes twice a day.
Yeah.
But to your point, anyway, I just wanted to point that out because people are like, wait, where's the special guest? Well, you're looking at us.
Yeah, we're the excitement for the night.
But so I think what you were saying was interesting because so I've been open now. It'll be this was just the end of our second week of when we were actually allowing foot traffic, and so many people are like, thank God you're still here. We're so happy that you made it. We're so happy that you decided to open. And you know, again, like not to like be, I feel like it's such a wet blanket, but like not to lie, but like it was heavy on my heart whether or not I should open, you know. I mean, and I know for you too, and but we want to maintain, we understand that this is a super tactile, everybody wants to touch and see and feel, and we need people in our shops for that reason. And my 2 weeks have been scary / awesome / so good to see people / I mean, it's just been this like emotional like craziness. And I know that you're sort of feeling that like almost ready to open scaries, if you will. So
I feel so fortunate that I've been able to talk to you so regularly and see what's been successful for you and not successful for you, which isn't very much, but there's some things that you're like, oh, I would have tweaked this differently. And so I've had the benefit of learning from your experience.
Mm-hmm. Always. And so I think that's kind of sort of our first kind of point of interest is I've been open for 2 weeks. I can just quickly share my experience. So we are allowing 3, we went up to 4. So our county executive order is such that they're suggesting 25% capacity. Well, I mean, I'd have to honestly call the fire department. I have almost 3,000 square feet. I'd have to like, what is my actual capacity? I don't know. So what I decided to do was just go with what was comfortable in my gut. And my gut told me that 4 employees and 3 walk-in customers was comfortable. We had plenty of space. One of my 4 employees was dedicated just to the phone so that we could continue to take phone orders and continue to do curbside because that has been a really great resource for people. But I think it was good. And I'll tell you, I was really, really expecting, because we're also requiring masks. And I know that that has become both like a political thing and a, why am I doing this thing, an annoyance thing. And there's like so many things around the mask, but it's what the county is suggesting we do. And I'm not going to go against the executive order. And so, but I'll tell you, people have been awesome. All they want is to get out into the world. And I think they're a little feeling like me, like, let's just follow the rules and begin to like step back into what feels normal. So that's been my experience this past week. We've been busy. We've been so happy to see people. And I keep telling people, pretend, I'm like, I want to hug you. I'm like, just pretend I'm giving you a big sloppy kiss. And they're like, ugh.
Never mind. Bye.
Yeah. So tell us really quick, what are you going to do when you open? Because I know Michigan is very different than
yes.
Missouri.
You know, the good news for us, whether you agree with our governor's opinions or not, she's very clear in what the expectations are, which for anyone who's known me for half a minute knows that I'm a rule follower. I like to know what's coming. I like to know what's expected of me. So I think, you know, when the one thing that was surprising is she announced that we could open like 3 days before, which was a week ahead of schedule, but gave us a 3-day notice right before a holiday weekend. And I was like, like I was freaking out. And I think we had a number of conversations then where I'm like, I'm just not going to do this, like, which was ridiculous. But that was my first gut reaction. And then when I hopped onto the Michigan Retailers Association group and got a little bit more guidelines and checklists, they had a checklist, you know how happy that made me. So
Girl.
then
I wouldn't have read it, but you got your pen out, you know.
Yep, I got my pen out. I printed off my posters. Like I did all the things I need to do. I created my COVID-19 preparedness program. Like who knew you had to do that? But that made me feel so much better. So all these things that I brought in are crazy expensive. The only silver lining of my daughter having had Lyme disease is I do own $1,000 air purifier. So that's like a huge benefit for the shop right now.
I can't decide if I should say yay for you or oh crap, really?
Well, you know, there's a silver lining to everything. We know this. So, you know, I've been doing all that and all my cleaning supplies came, my masks came, I have face shields for all my employees. Those all arrived. So I'm feeling really good about opening on Tuesday. So we are going to be doing curbside only on Mondays, just because I feel like there's a lot of things that go on that we're not going to be able to do at a close distance and all those things that are going to happen. So we have 1 day of curbside only, and then we'll be open Tuesday through Friday. And I think we're going to remain closed on Saturdays for a little while. I've got some staffing issues, a couple people that for health reasons and family reasons aren't coming back right away. So I'll figure out my working people. I'll make it happen for them. And that's going to be a little bit more flexible and, you know, fluid as it goes.
And I think it's so interesting because not only do we have our own personal sort of ethical and, you know, choices to make, but we're also all under different state and county orders. And so, you know, and this is no different than any other business trying to be in business or any other restaurant or anything. But of course, we're just talking about our industry here. Right. Our industry is so close. Like you know, I'm up in people's business, like looking at their canvas and looking at their stitches. And so we just have to do what's comfortable for us. But Melissa and I are part of a really awesome group of people on, it's a closed Facebook group, and it's a group of people who own needlepoint shops. And so what we did before this talk is
I think there's 60 of us.
60, is that right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I have absolutely no idea how many needlepoint shops there are out in the world, in the country, but that's a pretty representative group, I would say. Right. And what's interesting is that everybody is in sort of a different state of flux. But we kind of took a poll, and my pal Melissa, who's the good, you know, organized one, did a little aggregate. So what have you got to share with us?
Yeah, so I made a chart of everyone's responses, and people were super responsive. So I think there's 60 shop owners on that site, and I think we had responses from well over 30, which was like they're taking the time out of their crazy busy day to give me a little paragraph about where they stand. Mm-hmm. So the really interesting thing to me is that we've all changed how we've been doing business since March 15th. Mm-hmm. And I think some of those business changes are here to stay, you know, from these shops, some of them that are, you know, some people are in New Mexico and they're in Oklahoma, and they're like in more reserved territory that things are a little bit better than maybe they are on some of the shops that are in New York and New Jersey. So we're seeing kind of all parts of it, but even the ones that are in the most open of all the states are still doing curbside pickup and or delivery. And I feel like that's, for me, going to be a permanent part of our business going forward. I think people have just, at least for the foreseeable future, you know.
Do you know what's funny about that? And I'm going to throw you a tiny little curveball that I didn't bring up earlier when you and I talked. But so I thought that would be a really big piece of our business when we open back up. I thought, oh, it's so easy. Like if somebody can bring me something like the grocery store and I can just pull up and they can hand it out to me, well, sure, I'm going to do that. So we had a table, and you know me, I like had like a gingham tablecloth, and I had like signs made, and I had the whole deal. And I went and borrowed some like little cones to reserve a set. We didn't use it. It wasn't used. And we are still doing curbside, and we are more than happy to take things out to people's cars. But what was happening is people were calling and they're saying, are you open? And they're like, and like, I'd say, I don't know, anecdotally, maybe 25% of those people were like, I'm still not comfortable coming out. And we're like, awesome. Text us when you get here, call us when you get here. We'll run it out to your car. But it didn't turn out that we really needed this, like, I really expected this, like all these bags with people's names lined up, and it wasn't that way. So it's just funny what you anticipate and what actually ends up happening. So I'll be interested to hear how that goes for you. But
it will be.
But to your point, pardon me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think we have, because we have, not all of our clientele is older, but you know, a good part of my clientele is over 60. So that's where I'm anticipating, you know, those people making the choice to maybe just still tell me what they want and bring it to their car. But it seems like with all these other shops on my little chart, see, I've got a little chart here.
Yeah, nice.
Every single one of them said still doing curbside pickup and or delivery. So that was interesting.
It wouldn't be really worth the time to run through every specific piece of information that we got from all of our colleagues. But I will tell anybody who's watching or anybody who watches, we are more than happy to help disseminate that information. So if you're following Pointing It Out podcast and you're like, hey, I wonder if they know and I haven't heard anything or I haven't gotten information, or it's just easier for me to DM, shoot us a DM. And if we know, we're happy to send that back to you and say, like, we heard from whomever and this is what they're doing, or we will even help you connect phone, whatever information you need. What we're hoping to be here is a resource. So we're happy to do that.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because I've got details on who's open by appointment, who's open which hours, like more data than anyone wants to hear in this format. But yeah.
And I'll tell you, and again, I don't know, I'm taking up our time, but I'm fascinated by this appointment thing. I like, maybe it's because I'm an insane person and I talk too much. And so they'd be like, you know, like the Grammy music's playing, like wrap it up. And I'm like, but anyway, so, you know, because I'd be in trouble if I was like 35 minutes into my 30-minute appointment and the next person was there. I don't know. I just can't.
Well, so that's what was interesting, at least in Michigan, is the appointment. We were told we could be open by appointment. And that, I think, initially was completely throwing me into a whirligig. I'm like, how am I going to control this process? And that's when the Michigan Retailer Association came to the rescue for me, because they said that you can have walk-in appointments. It's just their way of limiting the number of people in your shop and controlling the chaos, which no one wants chaos now. There's enough chaos around us. We don't need chaos in here. So
fair. And I will say that it has been surprisingly non-chaotic. Okay. So hopefully I don't have to do that appointment thing, because that would not go for me.
Yeah. 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 I think one of the more stressful things right now is this whole postal delivery system thing. Like, I don't know what you're dealing with there, but I'm having issues with my vendors, things coming to me. I'm having, not all the time, it's very like up and down. You know, some things get delivered in 2 days, some days it's 2 weeks. I had 4 things going 4 different places that just got delivered in 40 days. How about that? So
where was it? Was that the one that was going to Europe?
Well, then we've had issues with that too. So I've just had some domestic things. Houston, Newport, and Memphis all showed up after 4 days. But I think there was a really, like, right when kind of, pardon me, the shit hit the fan, in April, things really went haywire. And so those things just went off the tracks. But then I've had some international things. So I've shipped a number of things to France, England, and Canada. Those are 3 countries I've been dealing with, which, according to the postal system, have always been open for delivery. Because some countries are just done. Like, you can't ship to Nambia, for instance. I can't remember what other countries, but I went through the list at one point because I thought, oh my gosh, what if I've been trying to send things to places that they can't go to? And so those were all being held up in Chicago. And so I was communicating with these customers and saying, I'm so sorry. I got it out the day you ordered it. You know, I did the best I can do. Now it's sitting. And ironically, one of them came back to me and she said, well, my husband's an aviation consultant. And I'm like, really? So she gave me all this information, which I kind of was like, oh, that makes so much sense, but I hadn't really thought about. So she went through this whole thing about how almost all the USPS mail that goes to foreign countries rides the back of the bus on commercial flights. And so when 90% of our commercial flights are grounded, very little mail is going anywhere. And
that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and my customers have chosen, because it's expensive enough to go overseas, they just wanted like regular first class mail. That was their choice. So maybe if I had sent it like global priority, it would have gone right away. But they, you know, I make them. I ask them to tell me how they'd like it to go, because they know how to do this better than I do in some ways. So it's just sat, but it's now just starting to go. So, and so she went through, the aviation consultant gal had said that it just, for the most part, it doesn't make financial sense to charter a freight plane to send this kind of mail, even if that were available, because obviously there's a lot more important stuff to be shipping around the world than the stuff we're talking about. You know, this is not medications, this is not, you know, other super important things. And so the good news is everything's slowly getting there, and we just all need to be a little bit patient. And, you know, I have trunk show stuff that they mailed from the East Coast May 10th. Haven't seen it yet. It was held up in Massachusetts for a while. Now it's held up in Detroit. When I went to the Detroit post office, they said, based on the current demand, because we're all shipping everything, ordering everything online, that the Detroit postal system anyways is operating at a 20% capacity.
I mean, and that's just, there you go. So what's interesting is I don't know if it's because I'm in the middle of the country. I don't know if it's because our COVID cases haven't, I can't say exactly the numbers, but it doesn't appear that ours are as bad in theory as in Detroit or what.
Geographical.
I do. And I don't think, and the reason I keep looking down is because I'm grabbing an email, just so everyone knows, because I want to share some information. But I haven't had quite I also have not tried to ship internationally yet. So, but we're having some issues too, but I will tell you the biggest issue I had was shipping to Michigan. I'm not even going to kid you. Like the one package that they were like, we didn't get it. So we've chosen to send everything priority, and I'm with you. I don't know whether that matters. Like, are those being handled differently? I mean, in theory, I hope so, but I have no idea. So interestingly, and not surprisingly, I guess I should say, is that not only is this affecting our shipments out of our shops, but it's affecting shipments into our shops. And everybody knows this in theory, but again, in practice, it feels very hard to understand until you have like really concrete information, in my opinion. Like, you're like, oh yeah, well, COVID's causing blah, blah, blah. But when you're like, when you think about the lack of domestic flights, the lack of commercial domestic flights that are happening right now, and the amount of things that need to go with them, it's astounding. Like, if you really think about it. So Melissa, we kind of tag teamed all this information, and Melissa talked to our colleagues. I happened to talk to some of our thread distributors, and one in particular who I keep, people call and they're like, have you gotten this in yet? And I'm like, no, it's in Mumbai, you know, because that's what she told me. And the truth is it was. And, you know, so many of these silks. So if you think about, you know, the Vineyard lines, the Planet Earth lines, the any of the silks, and that's just the two that popped into my head, so I don't want to call anybody out. But the point is, they are hand dyed, and they're as one of our distributors told me, they're what's the word she used? Like, you have to be gentle with them. Like, they're kind of fragile, right, for lack of a better term. So these are not the types of things that are just wound on giant machines, and like literally people are pulling these off giant skeins that have already come out of vats of dye, and they're dried and whatever, and then they're sitting there and they're hand winding them. So not only are we dealing with a shipment from some of these countries, but we're also dealing with the supply chain has been hit by human resource. You know, so it's sitting in a country. So these people are finally getting back to work. And then it's sitting in, they hand do all this stuff and then it's sitting in a port somewhere, either overseas or here in the United States. And
customs issues.
And so I don't understand that piece of it. That piece is still kind of like mind exploding to me, like where these, but I have the feeling that the majority of this also, not only does it have to do with the lack of commercial flights, but it's also the lack of workforce to
For sure.
remove these things off of the pallets and remove, you know, and so I was actually sorry to hear that in addition to some of the threads that are delayed, there's also some products that are being essentially discontinued because of lack of being able to ship either timely or ever. Because some things, some of these companies just have to say, I've invested so much money, but it's going to cost me 3 times as much to get it here now. So forget about it. I guess I'll just lose that, consider that a loss, leave it in India, Asia, I mean, I don't know, whatever continent or country it's in, and just say, like, I guess I'll just move on without that product. What's hard is that then we hear that from that distributor and we're like, ah, bummer, but real bummer is I have to go to my customer now and say, you know, I know you stitched that thing for that self-finished piece, but it's not coming, you know?
Right.
So that it's just it's a very stressful place to be. And like, sometimes I think about it and I'm like, it's so stressful. And I'm like, it's just.
I know. We have to remind ourselves, like, we can find another way to finish that piece. It'll be okay.
But it's also my livelihood. It's your livelihood. It's our import. It's our release. It's, you know, the things that we've, so I don't know. So I will say though, that I just got, and not trying to be a braggart here, but I got a giant box from Silk and Ivory with white. I got white. Did you get white Silk and Ivory yet?
I've always had white.
How did you, how?
Because I'm a hoarder, I guess. I didn't hoard toilet paper, but boy, I hoarded thread.
So I got, this week, we got white Silk and Ivory. We got a giant box from Rainbow Gallery, which for any of you who don't just automatically put that name with, so it's all the cards, Splendor, Entice, Silk Lame,
one of these.
Neon Rays Plus, blah, blah, blah. So we had a giant box from them, which I was like, yay! And so I think we can safely say that things are beginning to ship.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
the 2 places that were domestic but had shut down altogether, Threadworks and Kreinik, like completely, like the others kind of were trying to limp along. The other those two completely shut down, but we've gotten emails from both of them in the last 10 days that they're back at it. You know, they got some catch up to play, but they're back at it. So it's exciting.
Because it's I want to keep things moving, you know, and I've been doing like the tap dance of like, oh, you want white Silk Lame braid? Well, we can use white Kreinik or we can use Bud. Now we're out of both. And white Entice and white Glisten, and wow, they're all gone. So, but anyway, so we got those. I talked to Planet Earth. They're shipping. They're feeling pretty good about their supply right now, so I'm feeling okay about that. But I will tell you, and I'm going to throw this bomb back over to you. I'm still struggling with Canvas special orders that have been out since February, January, like OMG.
The one thing at the beginning of this is we were all also out of blank canvas.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
So obviously, in order to have a painted canvas, you need to have blank canvas.
Blank canvas.
So all the shops now are suddenly able to get blank canvas because most of that comes from Germany, correct?
Zweigert, yeah, as far as I understand, is in Germany.
So the first step is now people like Lou are literally out of canvas. So that was an issue. So at least all the canvas is available again. But then
even the people, I'm going to interrupt you 1 second. So even the people who were saying like, because there was a couple designers who were like, I'm so sorry, there's nothing I can do. And I'm like, I get it. But you know, it's like, they're like, I'll paint one for you because oftentimes the designer doesn't repaint. but they couldn't even do that because they didn't have enough canvas.
Correct.
So it was
even
like
if they
they
were
were
willing
doing the
to
best
get
they
the
could.
nitty gritties, they couldn't because there was no canvas to be had. So
Right.
that part is solved. You know, the supply chain is working again, and that's flowing, which is great. But then, as you alluded to, most of these painting services, most of these designers, excuse me, utilize painting services. And there's a couple small ones in the United States. But again, if they didn't have any canvas, that didn't help them. And then there are 3 bigger painting services overseas, 1 in China and 2 in the Philippines. And I don't know if like we as shop owners know that. I don't know if that's general knowledge for most people. But obviously, we all know China was shut down for a while. They were clearly the first ones to be shut down. I have been told that the China facility is now back up and running again. But in the midst of all this, these painting services had gotten ginormous orders from all of their designers so that these designers were prepared for the Cash and Carry show in Orlando. So, of course, we all know we didn't have that show, but that doesn't mean those orders still weren't out there. So their first thing is they're trying to catch up to that backlog. And then the other 2 are in the Philippines, and the Philippines was on such an extreme lockdown that literally if you were caught leaving your house for anything other than like food and medication, you would be arrested. Like we jokingly call it the United States lockdown, but we're really just, we really need you to stay at home, and you know, you might get a fine, you know, but literally people there were guards and they were going to be put in jail kind of thing, like very extreme. So the one has had a soft reopening of their facilities as of the end of April. The second service I was given a lot of information about, which I found really interesting. They have 2 facilities in the Philippines, one kind of in a rural mountain type area, and one in Manila, obviously large cosmopolitan area. And the mountain facility, I have to glance at my notes because this got kind of interesting, but I've got a lot of detail.
Too much
here.
detail. Yeah.
There was a small amount that was allowed to continue to work in the small mountain facility because they would, I think Kate alluded to this, they could come and pick up their little work packages and take them home. And so there was social distancing in place. But then it all circles back to the shipping issue. So they were getting work done, but there was a glitch with, I think that company utilizes FedEx, and there was issues with that. So there was a little, issue there. So, and then in Manila, that's obviously a very cosmopolitan place. People are living super close together, and it was super duper lockdown there. And so they were on complete lockdown through mid-May, so nothing could happen. And then as of the middle of May, 20% could go back to work. But then what hadn't even crossed my mind is that 20% could go back, but most of the workers rely on public transportation, and there was no public transportation in force. So now they're up to 50% can go back, but again,
if they can get there,
if they can get to work. So that said, things are starting to go back into the system. I know a number of our designers that we've talked to are so excited because they've received packages and things are starting to flow. And
I want to tell. So a couple of women are commenting who are designers who are watching this series. We've got Christine and we've got Ann Fisher. Usually watches. I had Hello Tess, and I want you guys to know that we're doing the best we can on the if you will, like sort of front line or like public interfacing side to explain all this to people. And this is precisely why we're doing this series too, is so that people understand that you guys are doing the best you can. Like there are in my world, there are no ill words. Like, and for the most part, customers are really understanding. I do think that there still is a little bit of a disconnect on like, this is a hobby and like, why aren't I getting my stuff? And so we're doing the best we can to like educate people and help people understand that this is a giant supply chain, and everybody needs to give everybody some grace, you know. And I, again, like, largely I think that our customers are, but I think it's important, and I hope you all don't mind us sort of exposing some of this information, because I think it just helps everybody understand where we're at.
So if people, and my philosophy is always like, if people understand what the situation is, then like, oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, no big deal. Whereas if they think that like Susie Q's home painting their canvas for them and she lives by herself, so why don't I have my canvas? Well, you know, if you don't know any better, that's how it works. But we all in the industry do know this. So, you know, all of my customers have been fabulous about that.
And mine, I've had a couple of people, you know, and I have to say, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this is such weird times, and like, people are so stressed out. You know, I have some people, particularly this couple of last weeks, have had some people come in whose parents, particularly moms, and I hate to be like gender specific, but like, moms are in nursing homes and they're so darn bored, and they're like, I'm here for a project. Her canvas didn't come in. She wants to make her stocking. And I'm like, let's find something else, you know, let's even get her, you know. I think that the stress is so real and it's so palpable. Like, everybody is just, you know, and so that, I think, is what trickles in. But for the most part, when we explain the whole supply chain and the situation, like, everybody's pretty awesome about it.
Right.
And,
yeah. It's just good to understand it, because then you know what's going on. And I'll say, well, you know what? Why don't you go to X designer's website that you love and pick out 5 things that you love, and let me call her or him and say, what do you have in stock of these 5 things?
Right.
And you know, then at least it's in this country, and we still might have some mailing delays even in this country, but it's not being waited to be painted. And so
that's right.
You know, we're just working around those things, that everyone's been really, really great about it.
And I hope I'm seeing, you know, Christine and Patricia Sohn and Don, and I don't know what Don was knowing to, but
when I said you're not home painting it in your house by yourself.
Yeah. Well, Christine says she's got tendonitis, so Don, I think you're being the slacker is what's happening here. But anyway, back to the point though, which is the other piece. What I was trying to circle back to is that I hope that when designers begin to get things, they even say to us, like, shoot me some information, like, hey, look what I've got. And by the way, I've got 40 of these canvases because I plan to sell this at market, but it's sitting here. And because I've been doing that with some of the people that I communicate with regularly. I'm like, hey, what have you got? Like, maybe I will be able to sell it. And like, it's sometimes, I know that Melissa Shirley, and not to, but they've been sending an email out to say, like, here's what we have. So in other words, like, we can then work to set the expectation to our customers, like, here's what they have. I know they have this in their back room or in their stock room or in their living room or wherever they keep their canvas. And I can say, here, look, why don't you pick from these opposed to the 16 that you've already given me that are still not being painted yet. So we want to just help everybody else too. At least I do. And I know, you know, I'll speak for myself. No, I want to help everybody's world. You know, like, I want to make this work for everybody. So, so anyway.
Yeah.
So.
No, when I called one of our BFFs, Joanna at Plum, the other day, and I was ordering something, and she's like, let's get on FaceTime and I'll show you what else I have. I'm like, perfect. So I was able to like shop what she had in stock right then. I'm like, yep, I'll take that, and I'll take that, and I'll take that. And it worked out great. And so, and a lot of other people have been doing that too. And actually I see Tess on here too. Tess and I had a conversation the other day, and I'm a little belated. I'm supposed to be sending her an order, but I was able to figure out how I can tell what she has in stock. So I'm choosing things from her, because these guys all have bills to pay too. So if I can get inventory off of their hands into my shop so that I can sell it, everybody wins. So
that's how I feel too. And at the end of the day, our customers just want something that they love, that they can stitch, but sometimes we just have to introduce them to new things that maybe they've never seen before. Right. So that's our job too, is to say, hey, look what else. Oh, I know you love cats. Like, look what else is out there, you know, that I actually have in stock or whatever. So anyway, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I do think that.
And they're all home stitching up a storm, which I think leads into our next topic.
You mean that pit in my stomach that continues to like rise up and sit like right here, and then I wake up at night and I'm like, finishing.
I know. How are we going to get it all done for these lovely people? Because that is such a big job.
Yeah. So when I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I think I've told you this. When I bought the shop, so I will have owned this shop now to be 3 years at the end of this year.
Do you know I
And
missed my anniversary?
oh, sad.
I know. All of a sudden on May 15th, I went, it was 3 years on May 8th. Totally, like in all its zaniness, completely forgot. Isn't that funny?
We're gonna do a toast. We're gonna do a live toast, and you're all gonna be in it with us.
Yeah, except for, you know, I don't have
stuff in before Memorial Day.
yeah.
So Alexandra Needlepoints here to that point. So we've got multiple layers of chaoticness happening, in my opinion, related to finishing. So let me go back to my really quick thing. So back to when I bought the shop, I was like, why do we do finishing? This is so stressful. It's such a terrible revenue generator. We don't hardly make any money on it. And here I am.
Responsibility.
It's a giant responsibility.
This is like these people's children.
Right. Because you worked on it for so long, you spent so much money, you're doing all this, and then people are just like, here you go, make this look beautiful. And I'm like, hell no, this is stupid. I'm not doing it. And the two women that I bought the shop from were like, okay, let's just have a quick talk. Like, part of this is a service that you're providing. And I'm like, uh-huh. But I'm also a business owner. But anyway, that's besides the point. So they talked me off the ledge, and I was like, fine. So I have worked my booty off to find more finishers, and they ain't out there. Let me just tell you. So I have been very fortunate to find, and I know, well, okay, I'll let you talk about your finishing situation, but like I have found some people who do some sewing and are in town. And so I've been able to kind of diversify in that way. And so I'm doing the best I can with it. And I'm going down the rabbit hole that Melissa told me earlier, don't go down that rabbit hole. And I'm doing it. Sorry. My big sis has to kind of, but anyway, so my point is it's a huge, huge deal. And on top of that, now layer COVID, pandemic, quarantine, where people are stitching like 3 times as much as they've ever stitched, which is beautiful and genius, but it's
scary because we're like, how are we going to meet this demand?
And I'm not exactly sure yet. So what I've done, and I know you've probably done too, is I have backed up I used to think it was insane that people had like July and August finishing dates. And I was like, that's just stupid. There's got to be a way around that. Because unlike Melissa, I don't like rules. I'm like, we got that. We'll figure it out. Oh. But the truth is, it's a problem. So we've backed up our finishing deadlines. They should start knitting too. Yeah, because then it's already finished up. See, Melissa?
Because Tess is making that cute hat that your mother-in-law made you. That little cat love hat. Sorry, yeah. Anyway, so Melissa and I talked earlier. We want to do a whole one of these sessions on finishing because we think it would be a very interesting conversation to have. But he's like, no more knitting, Don says. But anyway, the point is, what we wanted to just say here is that on top of shipping, on top of canvases not getting to us in time, on top of not having all the threads you need to finish your projects, we are super worried about finishing. And I just want you all to know that. And it's all gonna be okay, though.
It is. Everything's going to be okay. Annie just said finishing classes. So we do have finishing classes at our shop, but we can't do in-shop classes right now.
Well, and let's be honest too. Most people who go through a finishing class, I would probably say 80% who go through a finishing class say, "Oh my God, that was awesome! I'm so glad I did that, and I'm never doing it again."
Never doing it again.
Because it's a lot of work and it's hard and it takes a lot of talent and patience and time. And they say, "I'd rather be stitching." So, but you're right. Even if we could do this, we can't do it. So, there won't be class.
Painting. All you painters that are watching, I got no interest in that. All I want to do is stitch. So just for whatever it's worth.
Lots of job security.
Job security. But so the point is we wanted to end by just kind of like saying, so finishing is there. It's real. The deadlines are going to be earlier. And we're doing the best we can to try to remedy the situation and get everybody what they need on time. But I think we're all, again, just going to have to take I told the women at my shop, I'm like, all right, guys, when you start working, you got to eat your Wheaties and eat a big old spoonful of sugar because when you come to the shop, because you got to be sweet about things, because there's just a whole lot for everybody to deal with right now, so, and that includes finishing.
Someone just asked a really important question that they said our finishing materials hard to come by. So we have a local finisher just like you do. So one of the things right now is she's older. I mean, she's not old, but you know, she's of the age that you're supposed to, you know, be super cautious. And she's like, I'm not going to a store. And I said, I don't blame you. So, you know.
And what store? None of them are open.
Well, and this was, I guess, in the beginning when things were still open, but we had already closed, but other things are open. And I'm like, no, I don't expect you to go to a store. So, and now things are starting to open again. And she probably isn't going to be the first one to rush into Joann's when it's an option. And I don't think she should be. So the good news is most shops like yours and mine do have a stock of some fabrics, so you can kind of make it work. But sometimes I've said to my customer, that pillow is so fabulous, we need to wait for the exact right fabric. And so it's sitting and resting, and you might get some other things back before you get that because we don't have the right thing for that. So
I mean, yeah. So my finisher, one of our big finishers, called me the other day, and she was like, "Okay, so I'm out of Cummerbund hardware. I'm out of Black Moray. I'm out of blah, 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 blah. I've got all these projects sitting here that I can't finish because," and I'm like, "OMG." So then I'm buying Amazon Cummerbund hardware, which is way more expensive, frankly, than if I could get it from, you know, wholesale. So, but then my, you know, we said earlier, so then my margin just deep, it ticks down, but I'm more worried about getting that back to people. So there's just a lot to consider. And Moray, again, comes from, you guessed it, overseas. Right. So it's, yeah, it's nothing, but we're doing the best we can, and we're just going to keep smiling and doing the best, getting things out. And like, it is like a heart happy day when I get a box from a finisher at the shop, and I'm like, yes, I get to call these people and say it's here. Yes. And just pray to God that there's no mistakes. Because
the takeaway for everybody else is wherever you get your finishing done, chances are the date's going to have moved up a month by what it was last year. I know mine has moved up. It was usually September 15th. Now we're going to be August 15th for most things, not everything, but the bulk of things. But I think that month back up, whatever I'm trying to say, is probably going to be true for every shop. So, yeah. So
I'm giggling because there's a conversation going, and anyway, Don just said swimsuit hardware, which brilliant. Go buy a swimsuit. Sure. Yeah.
You know, Don, they crochet bathing suits. That's a thing. Not me, but yeah, it's a thing.
I mean, maybe Don needs one.
There was a picture of his legs online today. Did you see them on Instagram?
No.
I think he was at the beach, and the funny thing was, as it blew by my feed, I knew it was his legs. So I don't know what that says, but yeah.
I've seen okay. So this is all starting to fall apart.
I know. We're really so much for that rabbit hole. We're deep down there. So maybe we should wrap it up before we get cut off, because you know we only have an hour. We have 12 minutes before we get.
We got to hurry it up. So hopefully there are no other good questions from those watching, because we're not getting there. But what do we want to say? Thanks for being here. You guys are hilarious. Yeah. This isn't hilarious. This is getting just kind of silly, and that was not the intention. That was not the intention.
Well, there has to be a little entertainment in here too. So that's good. Yeah. Well, what my next job is after we wrap this up is I do my little magic wand and pop us on up to YouTube. So if anyone's not following us on YouTube, our episodes are always there, and it's fun because every week when I go in to upload the new one, I realize that in the last week, people have watched like your Ann Fisher episode from like a month ago. So they're out there forevermore. So it's super fun. And they can subscribe, and then they get a notification that there is a new episode out there. So it's a great way to see all the backlogs. And if they have something better to do on a Saturday night than be here live, they have an option, which maybe leads.
as what you just said, is we're going to be optimistic, and we're going to say like signing off Saturday Night Live here. And hopefully, please praise be. There's other things to do on Saturday nights, but we're going to continue to do these sessions. We're going to continue to post them on Saturdays, so you can watch them Saturday night if you want to. You could watch them Sunday if you want to. You can watch them all week long. And somebody just asked, what is your topic next week? So I think we're going to continue to do that little secret thing where we kind of like launch it on Monday or Tuesday. I always said I was doing it on Monday, but I did it on Tuesday. This is not going to end. It's just that it's not going to be live. So we are going to continue to post it on Pointing It Out podcast. And we are going to continue to interview some of the most interesting people that you'll ever meet in our industry. And we hope that you'll indulge us every, I don't know, what do we decide, 4 weeks or so that we can kind of just talk about the state of the industry and, you know, banter on with Don Lynch, by the way, who's of Associated Talents. But we hope that you continue to be interested in what's going on in our industry. We hope that you continue to follow us and ask questions, and we're more than happy to dive into any topic that you want to know about.
Yeah, so DM us on Pointing It Out and let us know like who you'd like to see or what you'd like us to talk about or whatever. Because we're open. We do actually have a plan, but it's not.
Believe it or not, it's because of her.
No, you're a good planner too. You just like to lie and say you're not. So we have an idea what's happening the next couple weeks, but we don't plan it out months on end. So we'd love some input. That would be great.
That's right. So everyone, stay healthy, stay happy, love your neighbor. You know, I don't know, you can't give them a hug, but you can at least give them a virtual wave or a high five or whatever. We just want to continue to spread some happiness and have a great time and keep needle pointing because it is saving all of us.
So. You might never get it finished, but keep needle pointing.
Contrary to popular belief, we'll do the best we can to actually get things finished. So.
It will get done, but just get it to us as soon as you're finished with it. That's all. Don't stockpile.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So.
Okay. Well, you have a great night. I'm so glad so many people joined us. It's been fun. 55 people with us. So yay.
They hung out this whole time.
Yeah.
So anyway, well.
Okay. Have a good night.
Bye.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.